Well, hello, Malcolm Nance. You're all the way in Ukraine. How is it there? It's very stark in your room.
Oh, yes. It's terrible here. If I was to turn it around, you'd go, wow, that's a nice room. This is the only wall that doesn't have a painting or something on it. And, oh, well, I know everyone has been watching the news, and I've been here several days now. And I've been here with my buddy, Terrell Starr, who is the host of the Black Diplomats podcast. Awesome guy. I mean, he's a black guy. Yes, he dresses like Santa Claus. I'm not joking. He wears a red coat with a white fur collar.
Oh, I want to see pictures of that.
or an elf that has turned into a pimp. So he is actually an expert on this region, and I've done his podcast, Black Diplomats podcast, several times. And in December, he said, I'm going back to Ukraine in January. And I said, I'm coming. He goes, all right. And I came over to assess the situation. I'm doing an on-the-ground fact-finding mission for my think tank, the Terror Asymmetrics Project. And, using my skills to get a feel for the situation that's around Ukraine. So right off the top, Kiev is the capital city, which in Russia, the Russians call it Kiev, the locals call it Kiev. This city is the size of Baltimore. It's got 3 million people in the metropolitan area. It's very big. My hotel is right off Maidan Square, where they had their revolution that threw out the pro-Moscow government that was holding them back from becoming a democracy, and that was holding them from wanting to lean towards the West. And the guy who got kicked out, by the way, was the guy who was paying off Paul Manafort, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump's campaign manager, Dirty Paul. And so, I'm in this metropolitan city, which is bustling and lively and very, very, very Western. I've never seen so many Teslas and Porsche Cayennes in my life. That's not true. I've been to Hollywood.
Yes, you've been to Beverly Hills at least once, so.
Oh yeah, plenty of those there. And it's a very Western place. Yes, it has parts that are traditional, but it's a Russian and Ukrainian speaking country on both sides. But this is not a city at war. I have been to many, many cities that were approaching war, and I've been to cities in war. And as you're watching the news, you would get the impression that that's what's happening here. That's not what's happening here. These people are not concerned because they have their own geopolitical considerations that they know. They know Russia. They have been at war technically in the Southeast for 8 years.
Right.
So to them, they've already had the drumbeat of war. However, what's going on around Ukraine is an order of magnitude different. And I'm wondering whether it's a little bit of head in the ground syndrome.
Okay.
Because the president was speaking today that he's sending troops. Where did he say he was sending?
I believe
Travis?
Romania and Poland.
Romania and Poland. Now, I assume he's got NATO's blessing for that, because he wouldn't do it unilaterally.
Well, I recall that last August there was a lot of discussion about the United States not being prepared for the collapse of Afghanistan.
Right.
And it would only be prudent for the President of the United States to preposition airlift and mobility forces in Romania, in Bucharest, or one of the other NATO bases, because Romania is a member of NATO, in order to do a very fast non-combatant evacuation if it looked like the situation was going to go critical. The American Embassy has evacuated its dependents. They evacuated all non-critical staff. I think the last are leaving on Thursday.
Good.
We still have a presence here. We have National Guard troops that are training Ukrainian forces nowhere near the east, right?
Right.
But there also is a very big American presence here, dual citizens as well. But you wouldn't know it if you came here, okay? I mean, I went down to Maidan Square. The first thing that happened is Sergey the bear, who smells heavily like cigarettes, came up and started giving me hugs. And, so now I have a picture of a bear eating my head. And it was worth the $7. He was worth it. That's if I had a bottle of vodka, I would have given him that too. But there was a pro-nationalist demonstration at Maidan. They have their giant "I love Ukraine" sign there that you can get your selfies with, and the department stores are open. Zara is doing a booming business, and the Turkish hookah bar is full of people. This is not what you're hearing now. That being said,
right,
all right, I have been tracking over the last month and laying out in fine detail through many open sources where the Russians are really deployed and how they're deployed, and do they have capacity to reinforce, rearm, refuel? Can they bring on follow-on troops? Because Ukraine is not an empty country. Okay?
Right.
It's got an army, and it has an army, even though it's low tech. Well, the Taliban did a pretty good job with just rifles and mortars.
Yeah,
right?
no kidding.
These guys are nationalists. They are ready to fight, and they may lose the air war and not have total air supremacy, but they have more than enough capacity to make an armor assault on this country bloody and painful for the Russians. So, that has to be part of the factors that Putin has. But Putin is moving an enormous amount of forces into Western Russia along the Ukrainian eastern border. And now we're seeing a very, very large amount of airborne forces and light infantry forces and other motorized infantry, motorized rifle brigades going into Belarus. That puts them only 2.5 hours from Kyiv. Straight run.
Right.
That is if it was unopposed. And since I've been in several wars where, people fight and they fight hard, it would be a 2-3 day full-scale slog down to the capital. But then again, you would be talking about the airport would be destroyed, communications would be knocked out, heavy jamming would be going on. We saw, Rob Lee from the Foreign Policy Research Institute and some civilian open source intelligence people identified jamming trucks that are designed to stop the radars of, the synthetic aperture radars of our J-STARS aircraft that can track. The J-STAR can track a motorcycle.
Oh, wow.
It can track every vehicle literally moving in Ukraine. In the first Gulf War, we devastated the Iraqis because we had that. Because J-STARS would be downloading data straight to the Ukrainians,
Right.
So the Russians bought that strategic jamming equipment here. That is what we call an unambiguous intelligence indicator. They don't just move it because they're moving other forces. They have goals. So what is it going to happen? Nobody knows at this point. It's up to Putin. The question is, can he back down from this? Because he's not getting any concessions. We're not going to turn Ukraine over to him, and we're not going to withdraw NATO back to the German borders.
Right. I read somewhere that they're bringing blood supplies too to the Russians, so that they're prepared for people getting injured. I would assume that doesn't seem like a good sign.
Well, there are a lot of train movements all around the country, and there's two ways that you can look at these. There are a lot of Russians with car cameras, and you see hundreds of these videos of train convoys, armor convoys, vehicles. That could literally be a strategic deception campaign to where the Russians are moving trains one way and moving them back the others, or they're putting them into bivouacs out in the field without the forces, without the logistics behind them. But moving blood is also one of those little indicators that you could make slip at a party, right?
Right.
And have it actually happen, actually get that. And it looks like they're doing something that the logistics chain requires. My big thing is food, water, fuel, and not the stuff that's in the Eastern Military District or the Southern Central Military District. I mean, moving from around Russia. But when the ammunition moves by the thousands and thousands of metric tons, and, then you're getting, that stuff you don't want to put back in the bunker.
Right. Yeah. Right. Now, Representative Lee and Jayapal, obviously, like most people, myself included, don't want to have a war with Russia. But
Sure.
Terrell Starr tweeted, and you answered him, the framing ignores that Moscow is the aggressor and that NATO is involved because Russia has long threatened many of the alliance's ex-user and satellite members. I mean, is Putin that... I know he's got problems at home, and that's part of the reason he's doing this. Is there a way for him to get out of this with saving face with his people at home? Do you think?
Well, the propaganda is so strong there. I had a friend of mine who's a Russian national, called her mother.
Uh-huh.
And she asked her mother what she thought about the situation. And the mother said, oh, it's terrible that the United States put weapons into Ukraine, and now Russia has to move forces down there to protect against the American attack that's coming.
So they're hearing like we did with Cuba. They're hearing like
sure, they have one source of information in Russia.
Right.
Vladimir Putin and his cronies control the news media.
Right.
So to them, it's whatever Moscow says it's happening. Whereas the reality is they moved 130,000 troops here, and we're going, whoa, where are all these troops going? What's the objective here?
Right.
If he wants to get our attention, he's got our attention. If he wants concessions, like I said, big concessions like he asked for us to withdraw back essentially to the Polish borders and abandon Ukraine. Well, Ukraine is working their way into joining NATO. The big problem here is that the thing Vladimir Putin is most afraid of is not American Javelin anti-tank missiles.
Right.
Although those could devastate his armor columns, and that could make it look very bad on television.
Yeah.
What he's really afraid of is this nation is a functioning democracy. It's overcoming the corruption that Paul Manafort got paid off at. There's a very large pro-Moscow contingent of people here that, and these people under Putin want to go back under essentially Putin's new Iron Curtain. And Putin is definitely afraid of this country infecting Russia with democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he wants to. I'm wondering whether he thinks it's worth it to just cause $1 trillion of economic damage, and do to Syria what he's done to do to Eastern Ukraine what he's done to Syria, which is bomb every hospital, bomb every fire department, kill all the police, and make your life devastated until you have an occupation force come in. I do not know.
Yeah.
No one knows.
Wow.
It's frightening. I mean, I can't.
And Putin seems to have his finger in all of these pies all at once.
Yes, he does.
Yeah,
he does.
And that's frightening.
And I can't imagine that. Go on.
When he gave his speech the other day, 50% of it was about the economics of him trying to bring Hungary, which of course is now leaning towards straight fascism.
Yes, it is.
Tucker Carlson's broadcasting from there, right?
Yep.
To bring Hungary into this. And, saying you'll have essentially free gas and fuel from Russia, trying to splinter NATO.
Right.
Look, you attack, NATO's going to consolidate. Finland and Sweden will join NATO. They're not members of NATO.
Right.
But they now understand 30 nations supporting anything Russia does is better than us supporting ourselves alone.
Very, very true. Biden just got us out of Afghanistan. I doubt he wants to get us back into, even if it were a short war, any war right now. It
wouldn't be a short war.
It wouldn't.
No, it would not.
See, that's what's wrong.
No, it will affect everything
right
in your life. I mean, it's literally a dictator invading a foreign country that was aligned with the West, right? That was working with the United States. Wasn't a member of NATO, but can you allow that to happen?
No.
You'll throw all these people into essentially Russian slavery? He's already done it in Belarus. He has his dictator up there. He overthrew the election. And now he has Russian forces poised to come down from the north very quickly, in Belarus. So what's next? What if he decides, Romania really shouldn't have been part of that? Or maybe he'll isolate and want to just take Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia,
right,
who are NATO members, if he goes by the calculation that NATO won't fight. We're not here to fight, but you know what we can do? We can take 5,000-10,000 Javelin missiles, which Russia is very afraid of, and make them fall off a truck at the the Ukrainian border.
Right. All right. Well, on that wonderful high note, thank you so much. I feel so much better about everything.
I do feel better that you're there.
Yeah, I do feel better that you were there, and stay safe. But have fun.
Yes.
Have fun in Kyiv.
Oh, believe me, I'm having fun. I'm going out tonight for drinks.
Good.
All
You
right.
deserve it.
Only two.
Only two.
In a combat zone.
That's
Attaboy.
right.
All right. Well, thank you,
I gotta go
Malcolm.
find a combat zone.